All right. Hey, everybody out there in YouTube land. Welcome back to us talking to you guys again. We haven't decided on what we're going to fully do with this. So, other than the topic that we're on. So, welcome back if you're new, if you're returning, thanks for showing up. My name is Rob, and this is my channel is usually Smirking Gun, and with me, as most of the time these days, is my cohort. I don't want to say co-host because we are cohorts. I think we get up to
We're,
shenanigans
I was
together.
going to say
We're
more troublemakers. I think
partner
cohort
in
fits
crime.
better.
Yeah. So my fellow partner in crime over at D's Reviews, Darren Jakes, is here as always.
Oh, excited.
Yeah, and we recently did a really big video on Big Trouble in Little China. It's something that we were really wanting to do. Uh, this is not going to be that. I really, I was thinking maybe it would be. I had all these grand plans about bringing in and doing book comparisons and stuff, but we don't really need to do that. And, while we're on the subject, what are we talking about? Well, if you clicked on the thumbnail and you still don't know, we're talking about V for Vendetta, a movie that's now like 20, approaching 21 years old, I would
Yep.
say, when the exact release date was
Was it, I think
um
2007?
2005.
2005. Wow.
Yes, I'm trying to find the exact, it doesn't matter. It's 2005. So like we're talking over 20 years now. And I mean, the Wachowski brothers, at the as they were called at the time, the Wachowskis
The Wachowskis.
now,
Yeah.
yes. Had been made some pretty, big marks in Hollywood prior to this movie. I mean, even if you want to say that, didn't they? What that movie Bound, I think, was their first
Yeah.
thing with Joey Pants and Gina Gershon and Jennifer Tilly, or
Yes.
is it Meg Tilly?
No, that was Jennifer Tilly. Meg is the
And
very
that was an interesting little. It was a really interesting movie for the time. I mean, and I can see now, like the Wachowskis' career and what they've done. A lot of their choices have made a lot of sense in retrospect. Still don't know why they
sure.
did Speed Racer, but maybe they just really liked Speed Racer. Uh, but with the Matrix also being like mostly, at least the first one, a big success. I think they all did well financially, just audience wise, critics wise. You know, they haven't been like the biggest critical darlings. They did an amazing independent movie. They did a movie that is going to, if not already considered a all-time classic movie, if not for its like technological achievements alone, I guess I would say is like that's what draws people in. There is a wider story to attach yourself to, but like really it's bullet time and AI going out of control, interesting ideas about viruses, interesting ideas about identity and things
Well,
like that.
I think in so many ways, especially watching this now in 2026, this was poignant in the time that it was made in the midst of the Bush era and the war on terror and all of that. And here we are 20 plus years later. Hey, we're back in the Middle East, folks, saying the same things. But it feels even more poignant now. We feel so much closer to this world. And I think, like you said, looking back in the Wachowskis' film career, I feel they're very smart because to me, while, yeah, the fancy action and slow-mo stuff and big over-the-top superhero things that was kind of in the mold of Matrix, that was part of the big selling point of this movie, to me, it feels almost totally secondary to what the film is actually about. And it feels like this is their way to tell a very poignant story that's only going to ring more and more true as time passes on, in the guise of a big actioneer.
Yeah, and based off of a pretty powerful comic book by Alan Moore.
Sure.
And again, watching it now after the fact, I can see why the Wachowskis wanted to do this story, especially for some of the stuff that happens at the end, but also again a warning to, everyone. This book was, I mean, in the 80s when this book came out, I believe, it was another kind of, it felt more like a Watchmen what if,
Sure.
right? Because what happens in the story of this world, right? Because it's in the future. Like this is like in 2035 or 2040 or something when this is really taking place. If you look at there's a line of dialogue um near the end of the movie where somebody goes, in 2015 and I was like, oh shit, I never really thought about that in terms of when I watched this movie. I just kind of feel like it's in that 80s kind of feel, but it's not. And lost my train of thought as I was like doing all that. Oh, when it came out, it still felt like a what ify kind of book. And not, not that there weren't problems in Britain, there just wasn't what Alan Moore was writing about at the time.
Sure. But
It's the
you're right.
possibilities. And here we are, like we watched this movie come out like probably roughly 20 or so years after the book comes out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a perfectly timed story for that, even though, yes, like we always use that term, it's more relevant now than ever. But if we actually fix some things, they wouldn't have to be relevant. They'd
Yeah,
be things
exactly.
we'd look back on them and go, look at what we used to be like. And instead we just keep watching things that are still happening over and over and over again. And now we really do get to say this is more relevant now. It just took another 20 years. It
Mm-hmm.
took 40 years for this book to basically start to come true for us. Other places around the world have been living in this kind of shit for a lot longer. And I mean, as much as I like to give the other side grief, everybody is a little guilty of like, well, we are like we are in this world now. And
Well, I mean, it's also funny because how much it sort of rings along with a lot of the themes of that 80s idea where, we were under constant threat of World War nuclear annihilation between the two great superpowers, the Soviet Unions and the United States. And we had war games were out there, movies, and we were watching, the Rambo series was coming up, and the memory of looking back at the Vietnam War and the ideas of what we've done wrong. And with this kind of potential extremist future, you get The Dark Knight Returns, which is a very fascist, dark future kind of look of Batman. You've got Watchmen, which is a total deconstruction of what the heroic lifestyle of heroes are versus the dark reality of what it, the politics of life is. And you get V for Vendetta, which is breaking down the political structure, imagining again this dark fascist future, looking back to look forward, because World War II and the Nazis were still very much in present, living memory at that time. Is it's definitely all taking a very not bright look at what our future would be. Of what our reality is versus what we kind of put out there from a cultural belief standpoint. And now we're in a point where we feel closer to one of those worlds than we ever feel that we should. Especially again with war on the horizons and everything else. So it's just Yeah, was a very surreal watch, I have to say, seeing this again.
Yeah, it's I've seen this movie a bunch of times over the years, but it's been one of those that you don't always roll out. It's maybe every few years, like for me. Maybe a
Hmm.
little longer than that. But but we've got some things to say because it's like watching this again, it's amazing how you can feel and change about certain things. And I don't mean like really ideologically or anything either. This is also like I know that this is like going to be an unpopular opinion, or at least not the when I say unpopular, I just mean like more people are going to disagree with me than not, and not really for any real negative way. But put up against Watchmen. I've heard good things about Alan Moore's Swamp Thing and other stuff, but like put this up against Watchmen, and I won't say From Hell because if you can just read From Hell, if
Hmm.
you can get through From Hell, that's like to me that's like reading the Bible for like comic books. It's so dense that I'm just like, oh, good lord, how is this even a comic book or a graphic novel at all? It is so like ugh, literally, like reading War and Peace, but a comic book. Um, but put up against Watchmen, honestly, I think this is Alan Moore's best work to me because it's not him deconstructing superheroes because he thinks superheroes are stupid. It's not one of those things, and it turns out to be a good story.
Right.
But it comes from this place of like, fuck these things, and this is all dumb, and this is what it'd be like, and let's. I don't think he was purposely being an edge lord or anything about it. It's just that's his sensibilities, and it's a classic story because no one's ever done it before. But I think this is better as an Alan Moore work because he's not dealing with some stupid superhero. He's talking about his own like neck of the woods.
Hmm.
He's talking about some very important political and things that are coming down the road that you can see coming. It's he's not a hero. He is a person and he's in a world full of awfulness and trying to get the world to wake up from this system and what goes on in this book and Evie's journey and things like that. It's to me just a book about hope, and Watchmen isn't. And so when I look
Sure.
when I compare that like what story would I rather see or watch more often, it's going to be this story because there's some hope, and Watchmen's very nihilistic. And I'm
Oh
all
yeah.
for some nihilism occasionally, but like again, putting these up against each other if I had to, because then there's inevitably people that you bring up these works, they're going to say, well, what about this and what about that? You know? Um, so I'm just putting that baby to bed right now. If you've not, since I don't think you've read this, you don't have any comparison, but I also don't know
No.
if you've even Watchmen. So, um,
Well, no, Watchmen is definitely very nihilistic and such. And you're right. This does leave with an idea of hope. There is a redemption story going on in here. And, what's Evie's journey ultimately? She becomes woke. She awakens to the realities of the world around her,
yeah,
which is really just the kind of thing. And in fact, that's the whole thing is society, awakens and stands up to the injustices around them and is hopefully willing to make the change. They're great. Revolution is always fine. What comes after, we don't often see a lot of stories of that because that could be very
yeah.
not good.
And I'm hoping, and I this movie just came back to HBO, which will who knows what it's going to be soon, and what will happen to a catalog of movies once it's owned by Paramount. We'll just have to wait and see. Um, but this movie, I'm glad. I am really hoping, and I think it is getting a really bigger audience now from the messages. Because you watch this movie, and it is like Like check mark, check mark, check mark. It is just going down the fucking
Oh
list of
yeah.
horrifying shit that's going on right now for Americans. Yes, again, we're paying attention because it's happening to us. Um, but overall, let's bring it all down. And if you've gotten this far, like and subscribe to the
Thank you.
channel. That was the preview. Like, no, honestly, this is the preview. Like, this is how my channel works. We get together and we have a conversation. We talk. Not everything is always very structured. I like to have it loose, like you're just talking to people, not talking at you, just talking to in parts where you can just end up thinking to yourself and having your own thoughts and comments while you're watching, and then you type those out, you put them, send them to me, and guess what? I answer them. So here we are, just continuing this conversation like I didn't even do any of what I just said. So overall,
Yeah.
I remember when I first saw this movie, I thought it was pretty good, but I was never, I, I, I don't know. It wasn't until video that I started getting more and more into it, but it was still one of those movies I watched here and there. But watching it this time, I have some like like interesting things to say, especially now that we're not just because of what things are going on here, but just seeing it differently now. Because I remember not really caring so much about like the accents of like Natalie Portman back then. I think The Matrix and this being the Wachowskis, I was you know uh, much more like into what they were doing, slow motion this, and just the theatrical sense of V himself. Um, and I still think this movie's really, really solid, but I have a few just weird ways of looking at it now. And so what do what are your thoughts on this movie's over, like in general, from when you first saw it to like now, like I just kind of did.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, I remember seeing it, and again, at the time, this was supposed to be another big actioner, and its action sequences, while big moments, are not really what this story is about. So it's a much more of a theatrical presentation. It's a little more over the top, and I think at the time that whole action, storyline carried it. And then of course there was, tragedy in the mix and storylines and ooh but being old enough to have gone through the 80s, and while we were dealing with Reagan in England at the time when this was written, this was Margaret Thatcher and Thatcherism, a lot of these same ideas. So this was not this was still kind of like a historical retrospective of, what it would be like if it got a little extreme and a little Nazi-ish and this was at home, and how would you live in this? But very objectified. Didn't really think about that a whole lot. That was so much more front and center. And to me, like I said, I really feel that this was a very smart job from the Wachowskis to sell it as a over-the-top superhero actioner that didn't really have a whole lot of that, because so much of the movie, like 90%, 95%, really is story, really is what would this world be like? This is what it feels like. This is what every step out of line feels like. This is if you're escaping it. This is if you're oppressed. This is if you're caught. This is like, this is the evil background of the story. These are the people that were in play and what they become now. This is how money is all involved with it, because they all become rich from this dark secret. And it there is so much, it hits so many things. And now looking at our world, which has become definitely much closer to this world than we have been before, it starts to feel very weird, especially with the oligarchs and people in power that make the money and thus have the connections, and now they've got each other's backs. And the one thing that it does do, I realize it fools us into thinking that this dark, oppressive ideology has to be run by clever people. Because the one thing this movie does is it really shows that this is a very capable, determined, clever, straight, and we know what we're doing. We've got all of our bases covered, and this is how we're able to instigate the evil around us. And that's the only glaring difference that I really caught at the end of this. It was like, wow. And this could be done by total idiots. Wow. I mean, it's like, of course, we always thought that it was going to be some grand strategy that took us down. And it's just time and ideology and look of somebody is going to follow at some point, no matter who that is. But it all does end up the same ultimately. So yeah, it was just an enjoyable romp before with some okay action, and now I'm like, I don't care about the action, man. The story that this is telling is hitting me in all of the places that are very sensitive right now. So yeah, I think there's a reason why it's on HBO's like top picks at the moment.
Yeah. And like I said, it just came back. Like I was like, oh my God, it just came back to like as we were talking about doing this.
Yeah.
Okay, so one thing that one of the things that the first main thing, and this is not about the story or anything, that I noticed this time, and I've seen this movie so many times, and I've looked at it, I've seen what it looks like, but for some reason this time it really was. I saw how produced it is, how it looks. It looks like in my head, like when I look at the comic, and again, coming from someone who's seen this before, I feel like this movie should have been directed by like David Fincher. Because it's just so bright. Like the sets that you see in the night, they're very, you can tell that they're like on a sound stage.
Right.
And it just doesn't look like they're out in the street. Like this, there's not a lot of like seeing England in this movie. It is a lot of interiors and just kind of looks out the window of London. London is in England is not on display here.
No, there's a very Batman 89 aesthetic to it.
But it also looks like a cop procedural. It looks, you know what I mean? We're in these buildings. We're in the TV studio, and it's just, very, very bland. And or they're in the cops, and it's just a cop place, and it's just there. All these things, like it just looks so. I feel like this is a gritty movie, a movie that should be like more dirty.
Mm-hmm.
And instead, it's just really clean looking to me. And like the music, it's just, like they've got like sometimes the Matrix type music will pop in when I think there should be more of a swashbuckler feel to it, or a older kind of sensibility in the musical score instead of like big diehard sounding stuff. Like I just never watched it with the lens of it. Like they are trying to make an action movie out of this really like really suspenseful and dark story. So I think maybe some of those themes and the way that they were trying to present it was clashing with what I was seeing past. All the way that they filmed it and everything. And it's a Wachowski thing. I mean, there's literally near the end, that end fight scene where the knife is spinning and you see the hair going on and the music is basically and I'm like, now it's the Matrix. And I just, like it is what it is, and I guarantee somewhere down the line someday, if we're still kicking and the world still got problems like this, somebody will remake this movie. And I would just say, bring it down to street level, show us England, show us the streets and the grime, make us feel like we're there, because I never really feel like I'm there. I'm just in places in a room, and it happens to be in England.
Well, yeah,
When they show Parliament, it's like, oh yes, we're there, but like, and it's not a complaint about the story or anything. It's just how I watched it. I just couldn't stop. I couldn't get over. I was just like, this just looks too good. This is a polished. And what I also mean by this is, like, this is a Hollywood movie. This does not feel like something that Hollywood would do very often. This kind of movie does not get made and look like this and get this much money behind it. And I feel like it should look and feel like a smaller movie, but it's a big old thing. And like you said, there's really not a lot of action in this. I mean,
no, they wanted to tell a story of oppression, of being boxed in, over oppressed, your rights being on. You can't be who you are. You can't be, again, something so resounding for the Wachowskis. And they went, okay, well, let's just stylize everything. The jail rooms are more jail roomish. Everything is very Nazi, bland, gray, almost like, the Eastern Europe, across the Soviet bloc. Look at your history books, people. But yeah, all the Soviet stuff was all very bland. With the Nazi stuff, it was all they considering all very preformed. So yeah, everything is just like a stylized version of what it is, and that's their comic book bit. And this is, again, I think, how they sell it. And then they give you the big knife fight in the beginning, and they give you the big knife fight at the end, and they give you some scary stuff and moments of roar. And they go, great, we'll sell that to the studio. In the meantime, we're going to tell this terrifying story of how your society could become just like this. Which is why I think you're right. I think there is that kind of very difference in how the story is told sometimes. That so much of, like, what is it they were focusing on. And I think, again, that story of, oh yeah, I left a girl, so this got me oppressed. I left a guy, so that got me oppressed. Oh, I just am different, so this would get me oppressed, and I can't say anything out. Or the fingermen. I mean, the fingermen stop a woman in the middle of the night. That just sounds assaultive. Just in the name, just in the terms and everything. It's just, yeah, they're focused kind of on Evie's journey and showing how much all of these differentials are just kind of oppressed. And then at the end, you've got the little girl who's happy about the mask, but she's going to be shot. And eventually, once it hits home, that's when people will turn things around. But it's not going to make a difference until it hits home like that.
I mean, the little girl. I mean, if we might as well just say the little girl might as well be Renee Good. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Might as well be like Peretti. She was out there with a mask on. What did she expect to have happen to her? But I also, like, another thing I thought was really interesting to me right at the beginning of this movie. And again, movie I've seen a bunch of times. And I believe it's how they do it in the book too, which is, how do they introduce us to V in a normal movie, not a normal movie, but in your standard film with a superhero-esque type character. First time we'd see him is when he comes out of the shadows to rescue her.
Right.
Maybe some close-up fast editing of someone putting on an outfit, a la like putting on the bat suit. You know what I mean?
Very Zorro-esque all here. Yes.
Yes. That's how a regular movie would present this. But instead, we are introduced to him like right away in similar circumstances. They're both listening to the news. She's getting ready to go out on and visit Dietrich. and he's getting ready to just go out on the streets, but they're both getting made up. They're both putting on a face. They're both putting on their costumes. She's putting on her pretty girl outfit to go over to a pretty guy's house because that's what she's being asked to do. And he's putting on his costume to go fuck people up because of what he's been pushed to do. Like he's putting on a mask because he can't show his real face anymore because they burned it off. Now he's had to take something out. And I just love that comparison of two people. Like, she's on one side, she might not be happy with the world, but she doesn't, she's just trying to get through it, while the other person has gone through hell and is about trying to burn it all down. And how they're just destined to meet, and they're watching this vile man on TV. And boy, did they perfectly cast this guy, man. Boy, did they perfectly cast everybody in this as guy you most don't care if you find out they were gunned down in the street looking people. Like, I'm
England
sure I,
prevails.
I don't know if these actors were lovely people in real life, but most people say, "Oh no, they're so not that person." But when you see certain actors at a part, every time you see them, doesn't matter how nice they are in real life, you're gonna be like, "You're that motherfucker who was like England prevailing, godlessness, and oh, those Americans." Like, perfectly cast piece of shit. Like, oh man, I mean, Pierce Morgan is a fucking pussy compared to this guy.
Oh yeah, again, this is the concentrated amalgam of all of these guys. We just get one. There is the one voice of England that we focus on, the one prime minister, the one stuff. I mean, it keeps the story very clean in that aspect. And yeah, they could just be as despicable as possible, which they definitely are.
So then, what did you think then of that? How they introduced these two characters, like how they introduced him, like compare, like how I was saying.
Well, I mean, yes, it was great because it's very theatrical, over the top, which I think was kind of the idea they were playing with at that time. It has that very swashbuckling feel as he's presented, plus with the all, complete V. Somebody sat there with a thesaurus for a really long time to get all of these wonderful usages of the letter V. But yeah, the action was it's heightened. It's over the top. And to me, that sets the stage for how to interpret the story that we're being told, where we are, what its theatricality of it is. The one thing I do kind of wonder about is, was this an accidental meeting or not? Because Evie is so much of a perfect match. Was he trying to find somebody that he could use to get into the TV station the next day? What were his plans and laid out? Was Evie just a happenstance, or was he planning on running into her? I don't think they ever really dive into that at all. I think it's totally left to
I
the audience.
I brought this up last night while we were watching it,
Yeah.
because it's like, it's one thing for them to run into each other on the street, but then for him to show up at her job and it just be this coinky dink where, okay, I saved her life once. What am I going to do? Leave her now to take the brunt of everything that they know I did, and they will go after her, so I have to take her out. And then you go, okay, well then how would he explain, you know, running into her at all?
Well,
And it's like, it would have to be, I was thinking like that, the same way you're thinking, is how deep did that go? But they never do. They never say, other than like when she talks about her own family, but he never tips his hand.
well, he does. There is the comment on about that there isn't coincidence. That coincidence is a way of the universe speaking of bringing things together. So I think they may lean on to the idea, which is, I think, plays into that moment is here's this person I just happened to save on my way to do this, who's also here and just saved my life. Can I leave this person here? Even for someone who I believe in the book probably was a little more psychotic than our wonderful Hugo Weaving portrayal here. Um, Again, I think it plays very well that it's a coincidence that just happens to feed into how this was the right thing to happen. This is the universe speaking. But I also just wonder, and I love the idea that again it is something that's left for us, the audience, that they don't really specifically go into. There's never the question of asked of how did you run into me that night? Evie never asks later on after everything. There's never a suspicion of V that he was betraying her or deceiving her at any point.
Yeah. I mean, there could have been, you could always say that maybe there was a connection between like him knowing like that she was going like to Dietrich, maybe Dietrich, because Dietrich had a lot of banned things, like there's all kinds of ways that this could go, but it's almost like fate and
Yeah,
destiny, the way that
it's
these two got together.
the classic inciting incident. We just happen to run into each other and we'll enjoy the evening, but we find out that fate actually does have us entwined. I mean, it gives it that very romantic edge. I mean, even as it all ends with him laying in the roses and such, it's very romantic. It's very much a love story, just not a traditional love story.
Yeah. She's made a habit of making like kind of weird love stories. Another thing I was thinking about, dang it, got a little itch on my ear here, was this movie clips. Like this movie moves.
Oh yeah, it's dense.
In fact, and it's dense and it still moves. And yet there was like this one odd spot to me near the beginning again. They go out there, he saves her from the fingermen who he doesn't kill, which I thought was interesting. He doesn't kill these guys, but he later doesn't have a problem like sticking it to the cops, even though like the fingermen are are willing to do, I think, openly worse things than the cops. But they do the thing, and I love that whole "I'm a man in a mask" and the whole thing about asking a man in a mask who he is. But he takes her up, he shows her, everything explodes, and I love like how horrified, like she's kind of stunned. Like the music comes and then just boom, something explodes in front of you, and he's like conducting an orchestra, and there's this like not knowing how to feel. Like should I be horrified? Should I be happy? Should I be, what am I feeling? Like that feeling when you, like someone who doesn't know when they've seen something that is like a push towards freedom or like that. I thought that was portrayed really well. And then they just cut. They hard cut to his little, the hall of the whatever they are, that room, the big fascist room, like the Doctor Strange of War room kind of thing.
Right.
The leader, main leader, talking to his underlings
of the giant,
and we just
TV.
hard cut. And then next time we see her, she is just at her job. What the fuck? Like, how do you hard cut from that? Do you just go out for tea and crumpets afterwards? Does he just go, well, you are free to go now? Like, they're up on the roof. How did that scene just ends? It should be a moment of like, this is where he takes her back. He whisks her to her apartment or something and says, goodbye. Instead, they just end it. We need to see the end of that interaction. You can't just leave a scene like that. to me. I
No,
thought that was horrible.
we want to see the end of it, but that's why they don't, because they've got to move on to the next thing. Ultimately, how she got home and how he dropped off or whatever, that's anticlimactic. And here you go home. Have a nice night. Bye. Does he disappear? Does he do the Batman thing like she drops
But
her keys and looks up and then
don't
he's
they?
suddenly gone? Um,
But don't they want you feeling like she's supposed to be like Lois Lane, who just saw Superman in a fucked up way, not in a
well,
good way, but like, what the hell did I just witness? Who is this man? Will I ever see him again? Like,
well,
it
but
just.
but I think leaving it on the roof, I think you're caught with the same point she is, which wondering is like, is he insane? Did I
I do.
just get myself in more trouble than I was with the fingerman down there?
I don't know.
The next thing is she's just like, oh, and then he was just gone. And then, it's a very
Well, that's the
quick.
thing. Give me that. Give me she turns around and like Batman, he's gone. Like I personally need closure for this just to be satisfied. I just think that it just moved that's moving too fast. We can have some of those moments. I need that. There was too many cuts. Like for an R-rated movie, right? Like we see very little. He cuts away from killing the newsman. We cut away from the priest. We like.
Oh, yeah, we don't see a lot of that. We just see like the body and, but, they guess they've all thrown up. I guess they all get poisoned is, is what happens. But yeah, it's like, okay, good. We got this spooky stuff and then we're moving on. They want to tell so much more of the rest of the story.
Again, that's like why it feels just so clean and not like the nastiness of what he's doing. The dark revenge. Where is the dark revenge if it's just here's a rose, goodbye. Um,
Because he's spooky, they cut
I
and
know.
then they're dead. So we get to make it up in our mind, like, oh, what did he do to him? Oh,
I,
the evil V, he's crazy. Oh.
maybe they felt like it was gonna like damage the character's like likability or something like that. I thought I don't like him or hate him. I just he's just a person who's, as we see going along, has got more than just like because it's the right thing to do. I mean, there is a straight up revenge part of this. There is some cold blooded. I want my pound of flesh on top of yes, these people did all that and did this to the whole world, and now these are the people I got to take down, and they just kind of so happen to be a bunch of fascist assholes. Um,
Well, yeah, but again, in regards to how much story they cover, I mean, we get our introduction and then we get the
they
evil
do.
CEO room that has like the oppressive regime. And then they go in, this is how the TV is covered, and that's all of it. And this is how the police, I mean, we've got Stephen Ray doing throughout the entire film, trying to do the right thing in the midst of a government that's all about covering things up. So we see how the
Yeah,
police have to deal with this, have the internal
they
police.
they definitely got it all in there, and it everything was told. I just again I and this is just time going by
Sure.
and us being in a different time period where now and it's the old this would have been a better show. This would be a good series. They could have taken their time and done I don't necessarily even mean more closely adapting the book, but like since she's there for like a year or well, she's in different places for different time periods
Well,
during
yeah,
that year.
the film takes
Um,
place entirely within a year. Yeah.
we could have, this could have been a great like 8 to 10 episode miniseries, a limited series where it's you didn't have to move at such a clip, and we could have seen more of like the way the world is there. Expand on this world a little bit. Maybe see the like how they got here, that kind of thing. And I know that for purists, that would probably just no, no, it's perfect the way it is. But like,
Well, it would probably get you that more grounded imagining of what this is. You would get a lot more of city streets and things. I mean, all I was thinking is like what you want is the 3 hour version, the 2.5 hour, 3 hour version of this movie, and not the 2 hour one where they cut all those points out to try and get as much of, Evie's arc and showing all these moments and how everything is intertwined and how evil and dark and what a government would do in order to gain power, hint, hint, uh, uh, false flag operation that kills their own people that they can blame on other people out and then that was my favorite part, and then make money on the cure, which we had all along. I mean, like I said, it feels very, very poignant now. But I think you would get much more of that kind of grounded thing. You would have time to tell all of these little stories and such. For them, it's what they could do in 2 hours.
what's one interesting thing that I think about, especially how they're telling the story, is that when she gets to the point where we've already done the first explosion, we've done the TV station and the announcement in front of everybody, and being another just really impactful speech, and how they get out of that, and how she, he brings her to his place. Then she, goes to help him with the priest, which
Right.
is a whole other level of sick. Like again, this is like Sin City. A lot of this feels like Sin City
The
shit.
very
Um,
Epstein. Very
ugh.
Epstein.
She's
Yeah.
not too young, is she? She
No,
runs
she's
from
not too
him.
old, is
Yeah.
she?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Um, she runs from him there and gets to Dietrich's, who hides her there. This is all happening really fast in some ways. The slowest part is when she's talking to him in his home and just talking about like what he is. And even though at the beginning of the movie when she says, "Are you like a crazy person?"
Yeah.
That was great. But like she does all those things, goes to Dietrich's, he puts on his parody, which again, we even have that. That is shit we see now. People putting on big epic parodies of the glorious leader here. And
With great deep fakes. I mean,
oh,
that
great,
was John
great,
Hurt playing the parody versions of himself.
right? Fantastic. All that happens, and you feel like you've watched so much of the movie, right? And you have that it feels like even when he gets hit on the head and the black bag put on him and taken away by those people after he does the show and says, "What are they going to do to me?" He
Yeah.
might as well have
Great.
said, "I'll be right back."
Yeah. Great
Um,
memory also, after, because she had told the story of her mom disappearing and her as a kid being in the exact same position, and now she sees it exactly again as an adult.
yeah, she was under a lot of beds in this movie.
Yeah,
Uh,
but yeah, she's tiny, so she can do that.
but when they pull him out, you feel like the movie is basically we're only like a scene or two from the end.
No,
Do you know what I mean? It
not
feels
even.
like you sat and like you've built up and like it can't get any worse. And from the trailer, I'm sure that even when I was looking at it back then, I was like, man, like when are they gonna get to the part that I saw in the trailer? Like this doesn't seem like we're headed there. It seems like the movie's about to be over. Did they cut all this stuff out? And no, that's when he grabs her and puts her in that cell and does like what a lot of people probably have is a real problem with the way that this turns. Like, because I mean, her reaction to when she tells him, when you know fa- makes him face what he did to her. You tortured me. You fucking tortured me, man. Like I had to, and that's where like the I've had this describe. I described this as like kind of a supervillain origin movie or a supervillain story where he was a person who had some very 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 bad things happen to him. They gave him the power to fight back, and now he's come for his pound of flesh. And you can who can't identify with that? That's like the
Sure.
Punisher kind of shit. That's like it's a worthy like anti-hero character to follow. Like yes, get like, but then he does this shit, and you go, okay, now you're kind of like Magneto a little bit, where you're just like kind of like, well, I had to like, wake you up, and in order to do this, I had to do all this to you, and without your choice, you know, with
Well, this is
for
why
the
he's not a hero,
yeah,
why he's an anti-hero.
yeah, and why that's just so like that's amazing. But it's like it's a hard thing.
Oh yeah.
It's a movie. It's a part of a movie. And again, that's why I'm sitting here watching this and I'm going, this is too much of a Hollywood movie to be dealing with this subject matter. Like, that's what I kept being like. And again, should I applaud them that this is like, you'll never see a polished movie covering this type of subject done with the almost in the guise of like, I dare you to see this as anything other than an action movie. Can't you hear the music? Can't you see how we're presenting it all? It's clearly an action movie and not to be taken as much of as a socio, like anything about our social structure. And that's why I'm just like watching it. It's like, oh my God, like what am I?
Well, I mean, and to me, that's the great thing is because that abduction, that is like halfway in the film. And then
More
we
than halfway,
start,
man.
and then we start the flashback sequence where we get the whole story of told, and the actress that fell in
Yes.
love with another woman and did this thing and her whole story, and we start to get, it's like it starts to begin again, and the only kind of way that you can redeem V from this is because, again, he's probably completely sociopathic and can't feel as much as he wants to try to feel because, the result of all of these things is looking at it the way is like, look, this was going to be her future, except she was at all times safe. He wouldn't have actually killed her. It was more of a psychological torture to put her in that mindset. And she had asked, I don't want to live in fear. And he's like, this is how you do it. Because at the end, you don't. You have found something bigger than yourself, which is great because after she leaves and then comes back towards the end of the film, she's like, yeah, that person couldn't even recognize me. I stood and stared at her right in face to face. And this old person I worked with didn't recognize me. I guess I can thank you for that because I'm not afraid. Or I think how she said, how did you survive place to place? I've got to thank you for that. I wouldn't have without you. And while that hardening is what she needed, she had to go through this. And if he wasn't there to grab her, the fingerman would have grabbed her and it would have been even worse.
It's like, yeah, it's just one of
not
those
justifying
things.
or excusing it, by the way, with all of that.
No. It's just like, what a hard, like, again, good luck. Like, again, trying to just like, it's what I love about it is that it makes that choice because it says like, oh, you like this guy? Okay. Well,
Yeah.
we're gonna make you hate his guts here in a second because he has a point. Yeah, that's a very smart structure of story of putting us as an audience in a, well, fuck, you got me no matter where I go. Whatever opinion I have, you got me. You got it covered because she'd be dead or this. right? He could have just saved her and done nothing though, right? But and then asked her. That would be the very very like the ultra way of looking at it from a certain perspective that's not conservative, right? The like the non-consensual nature of what he did to her
Oh yeah.
would
No.
be the biggest argument and an actual point that someone would have about this. But again, the script goes, well though, well then
Well,
I
but
guess we
again, if
don't
we're
even have a movie then because what are they just gonna eat, eat and catch up and shit for the next hour? Just be like, oh, I'm just gonna wait until November 5th. Let's just,
but
I'll
I
teach
think
you how to play swords or something.
that's part of the point though, is because you're right. It's to show it's like, look, this is not a hero. This is not someone to aspire to. This is not a great thing. This is a damaged, psychotic individual that is just thankfully aimed at the right direction.
Yes.
And he knows that.
Yes.
He knows he has no life after this, and he probably shouldn't have a life after all
No.
of this.
No. And he gets what he wants. He gets to see all of the everything play out, knowing that he's not gonna make it. Like, no, I love that. He's just like he knows it. I mean, thank goodness he's, nobody shot him in the head. Um, but
Yeah, again, superhero over the top.
and
Well, and he does get that moment of seeing that somebody would like him to stick around.
yeah. Um, and honestly, like as much as we talked about, like when there is action, though,
Mm-hmm.
I don't really care about it.
That's
Like
what I'm saying.
it's the least interesting thing about the movie is them fight is like he's whipping out his knives and shit, and I'm just like I don't care
Yeah,
about
the
that.
slow motion fight. I'm like, all I would love to see is like a shot of this in real time to see how fast it is, because right now it's just lucky slow motion of like, drop the
Not
clip.
like we have knife
Oh,
time, we had bullet time, now we have
yeah,
blade time.
I gotta get it in the gun before he kills me. Oh, it's you're right. It is the least interesting. That was the thing that I got me so much after this ride. I was like, yeah, I don't care about the action. I want to go into the storyline. What happened in the prison? What were the
Yeah.
doctors doing? What were these guys doing? What were their very specific job?
And there's also like the Stephen Ray character and his partner dealing with like the how to come to terms with knowing that you're part of like this awful structure. Like he's in the main room, he's with the big guys, he has to sit there and take it from this guy who I just like I don't know how it he seemed like the kind of guy who would never be along for any of this, but I do like some of his journey of okay, we can't be a part of this. Like showing that there were some people that you would say, well, you were following orders. He does not, his big thing is he doesn't stop her from doing what has to be done, which
Sure.
is blow up a building that nobody's in at the time.
Yeah,
And it's a more of a symbolic thing
totally symbolic.
to wake people up. And seeing the huge group of people with the masks all come together and everything, it is very inspiring.
Oh yeah.
I had to swallow everything inside me from going, well, Border Patrol would probably just shoot all of us. um
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like they're not like, we're not getting orders. What do we do? It's like somebody would just be like, well, then we shoot them.
yeah, we just shoot them.
But that's
But
that's
throughout all of this, and there is like all this darkness. I mean, the fear of being assaulted on the streets by secret police, being pulled away by secret police and disappeared. You've got the control of the media. You've got the control of the police departments.
Roving
The
patrols listening with microphones to what you're talking about in your own rooms, you
sounding
know.
like you can't be homosexual, you can't be lesbian, you can't be anything that isn't, straight as an arrow. It is the erasure of minorities. It's the erasure of anybody different. That story with the actress and her like reading the note and everything, it's just oh man, when they get to that part, it just
Oh
kills me,
yeah.
man. And that's when I was like, I know why the Wachowskis wanted to do this. Um, and we really didn't talk about the performances that much. I mean, Hugo's amazing.
Well, I was going to bring up kudos to him because, especially on rewatches, Hugo is obviously all of the different cops that are torturing Natalie Portman. You know, it's just done in shadows, but you tell from the body. And if you listen, it's his voice doing all these different voices and basic characters, playing all of these different people just in shadow that are torturing her. It's like one of those small little bits where I was like, man, that's great. They didn't fake having other people try and be that. That was him in different forms with different voices as different characters. Um, but
He's
yeah,
good. Natalie's good too. I again, you can take or leave the accent. I think that she's better at the emotional range of things that she had to go through than worrying about how she was saying it most of the time.
yeah,
Um, but she was really good at showing that range of how she started and where she ends up and the mental strain in between. The only other person that I would have, and I was saying, like they should have cast a Brit in this was Keira Knightley, maybe, but I don't know if she had been, if I don't know. It was still early in her career. This is we're talking like Pirates of the Caribbean era.
right.
So she's the only other person I would have picked for to play this part. But Natalie, I think, does a pretty good job. Stephen Ray's. I mean, the bad guys. I mean, John Hurt. Just, I mean, all he had to do was sit in front of a laptop, probably, and yell into it for most of the movie.
Oh yeah. Then he
And
gets to
he's
play a parody of himself, and then he gets killed.
so good. Everybody's just so perfectly evil. Even the not so evil, like the one lady who is like, please don't, like, just make it quick. Everybody
I
was,
killed you 10 minutes ago while you were
yeah.
asleep. Oh
Stephen Ray's partner, isn't that the guy who played Lestrade in the Sherlock Holmes, like the Benedict Cumberbatch?
it might be. I'd have to check. I did not I kind of saw him, but I wasn't really paying a whole lot of
Everybody was
attention
like,
to
of
him.
course, everybody was going to be younger, but like even Stephen Fry looked like a baby compared to like like he was like this is 2005, so 21 years ago.
Oh,
I mean,
so long ago, you
dude, I was
youngins.
30. I was 30. I was a young buck
Yeah.
still. Oh my god, Lost was in its first season still probably when this came out.
I didn't need these at the time. I could just be.
So I think that's pretty much. I mean, we've covered most as far as like what we wanted to talk about. I mean, this is a very, very poignant movie and a relatable movie. It's. I'm glad that it exists for people to have something to like inspiring to watch, to something to like. When you get done with it, you can be angry, but there's hope in this and there's like togetherness, like revolution. We were this is what like how does a revolution get sparked? And we got to see one example. They
Mhm.
showed us how you get people to wake up to the bad things that are coming on with the help of a guy who decided to blow up some buildings in London to mark the remember of November 5th. Guy Fawkes, which again, I don't know how, like, why we even really needed to bring that up. Remember the 5th of November,
It's a
the
great
gunpowder treason
selling point.
plot. It's a great starting point to remember that, like, for one man's terrorist is another man's revolutionary.
Sure.
And, we can say that we want to be on the right side of history. And if this is like something that, pushes people to maybe go, what we've been seeing is not acceptable and we need to stand up to it more. We need to
Um,
start.
yeah, if there is one big warning to take from this, I think it is, like you mentioned, it's the same thing that caused the police officer to finally turn and stand up, is when you find that your own government betrays you. Because we are very much similar to those early days they talk about in the flashback. You have a divided populace. You have somebody who is standing up saying that they're going to fix things. He's riling things up. But what ultimately allows the horrors to step into that next level is always the instigation of emergency powers. It's the same thing that has happened. It's the same thing that Putin is doing over in Britain. It's the same thing that Hitler did when he was able to, after the Reichstag fire, to be able to gather a power together. It's the same thing that happened with John Hurt in this once they had the biological attack on their own people. That's what causes people together. After 9/11, when we were attacked as a society, we all came together. It's a thing that annoys me so much when we're talking about the idea of Iran, is we've bombed Iran and now we're acting surprised like the people are binding together behind the new government. Yeah, we don't like them and they're bad, but nobody likes to be attacked. Whenever you attack somebody, that's going to draw the people together. What happened here was a false flag event, obviously. They released the toxin in the biological problem that they already had to cure for, so they could rile up the population, get their emergency powers, and then sell the cure back to the populace
Well,
and
I
make
mean,
themselves money.
we're definitely yeah, but we're all, and we're looking at a group of people that are in charge right now that could very easily try some shit like that today.
That's exactly what I'm warning, because we're already having warnings of drone attacks off of California here, which is total BS. That's not going to happen. But what saved the George W. Bush presidency was 9/11. Nobody liked him. He wasn't doing shit, but that caused that brought the country together, and that spurned him on to go off and do completely ridiculous wars in the Middle East. We're already in the Middle East right now, and we're a fractured society. If we get attacked, that would only serve to benefit Donald Trump. And that's about as political as I'm going to go right now. I'm kidding. I'm going to get so much more political. But seriously, and I'm not saying they were going to orchestrate an attack on the country themselves, a false flag. But if anything does happen, that's when we really, as a society, have to put on the brakes and say, this is not a reason to give this person more power, because nobody ever gives power back. Ever.
Yep. Yep. And it's going to take people to stand up, and it's going to take people aren't, not everybody's going to make it.
No. And like that group,
So,
we all have to stand together to do it, because it's only us refusing to go along with it anymore that's going to stop it from happening.
yep. So it ends in revolution.
As always.
But no, it really, this is a movie that like has been on the. I'm surprised that we're doing this and not other movies, but as far as like topical time to do a movie, this is that time to do this movie.
Oh yeah.
And maybe it was a year ago. I don't care, but like like I've never talked about any of the Wachowski movies, so this is weird that it's this one. But it's when I look back on their movies, I'm the guy who goes, "Oh, V for Vendetta," before I say Mark, The Matrix. If you say Christopher Nolan, I say, "Oh, The Prestige." Like that's oh, Inception.
Yeah.
That's where I go, but it's usually The Prestige. Like if you say David Fincher, I go, "Oh, Seven, Fight Club." Like that's where I go, and it's the same with like these guys, where I always think of V for Vendetta first in their history, and for some reason, Speed Racer.
I was gonna say, well, we're gonna have to do Speed Racer next. I've never watched that, so
You've never watched it? Oh
no,
boy.
I couldn't bring myself to it. I've seen little bits, and I'm like, I don't know, but maybe I'm missing something. I mean,
Um,
it's possible.
you would need, we would have to do a watch party. You would have to join a watch party for that, and I don't know. We might have to do it like you and me, like on camera, like not with everybody else, but I think we need to see each other while we're watching it.
Sure.
Because
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Hey, this is why you like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of these
because
potentially exciting things.
yeah, because that would be amazing to have us try to get through that movie. Um, it's a thing. It
Yeah.
exists. It's
Okay.
colorful. It's got Matthew Fox.
Again, I don't know if any of these are selling points or not, but
But yeah, so V for Vendetta. It's a crazy movie that I can't believe Hollywood made. Because again, it just looks so good and does not to like they made a very powerful movie hiding as an action movie,
yeah,
hiding as a police procedural, hiding as a terrorist thriller, hiding as all kinds of different movies inside a movie that is about bringing down fascist power systems and how to start a revolution.
yeah.
I've got the whole people should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.
Yeah.
I've only had this shirt for about a year.
I just have a pirate shirt. To me, that fits in all. That fits all modes.
So, and yeah, somewhere there's a Guy Fawkes mask. But like I said, we were joking earlier. The best I can do is throw on a Magneto helmet for everybody right now.
Yeah.
So, what are you doing on your channel? I know the Daredevil Born Again's coming up.
Daredevil Born Again season 2 is coming up. So you can catch that over at D's Reviews. I'll have this guy right here with me, and we may have a Don Willie joining us as well. So that'll be probably Thursday night, 6 Pacific, 9 Eastern, most likely. But make sure you like, subscribe, both D's Reviews and Smirking Gun as well. Hit that notification bell, and then you won't miss any of these videos. You'll get told when they're coming up.
Yep. And as soon as I get this was really important to get done. But if this had fallen through, I'd be recording the Absolute Universe versus the Ultimate Universe comic book video that I've got some things already done for it, and I'm just excited to talk about some comic book stuff. Hopefully, as soon as I get a little bit extra private time to do it. But hopefully in the next week or so, that'll be up on the channel as well. So keep an eye out. Always game streams over here, playing all kinds of things. We're playing Spider-Man 2, Tales of Arise, Darksiders 2. Is that it? I feel like there's more than that. There probably is. I just can't remember right now.
What
Baldur's
you're
Gate
doing right now.
Our sixth campaign of Baldur's Gate 3, where we're doing the Bell's Hells characters from Critical Role. We've been doing that too. Oh, and I have been trying to beat Arkham Knight since 2015. I just can't ever seem to beat it because I just don't want it to end because I don't want Batman to die.
Oh
And
yeah.
I also am not going to play it 100% to get the good ending, like in Mass Effect, where you have to play that game to 100% to get the good ending for that. And there's just some things I'm not willing to do. So I've never actually finished Arkham Knight before. So we're actually trying it after over almost 11 years sticking around in all these different games. So keep an eye on the channel for that. Like and subscribe, blah, blah, blah. I never know how to end these things anymore. So I'm
Yep.
just going to end it. Have a great night, everybody.
Bye.
What is it? An idea is. What's the saying that he says at the end? Or she says about ideas?
I didn't write
Ideas
that
are.
down.
Oh, no. Well, there you go. There's a blooper for everybody. Bwap, bwap. I can't remember the most famous line from the movies. Ideas are bulletproof? I, I don't know.
No, I think that's Batman Begins. You know, you can't kill an idea. That's
Basically, that.
a symbol
Bye.
cannot be killed.